Hello lovely Gemini, and welcome to the 2026 horoscope, which is very exciting. So this is going to be a brief horoscope. It's not going to be a super in-depth horoscope where I talk about every single month like I did last year, and that's mainly because I want to talk about the themes more in depth. I also have a PDF that I'm selling on my website, quite cheap, around $10, and this is going to include all the strategic transits and aspects for the year, broken down into two sections. So that can be love, travel, hobbies, more leisure pursuits. And then also we have finances, career, self-development and the like. And then I handpick each transit for the zodiac sign and then outline them together. And also I'll be going through every single full and new moon, highlighting the themes of that, how it also translates to the last moon we had in that sign. So hopefully it's quite comprehensive and you find it enjoyable. So that's the reason why I'm not doing a massive overview for this video, but I am going to talk about every single eclipse this year. I'll also talk about the key themes, as I mentioned, the most pivotal transits for 2026, and then also a reflection on 2025 with a bonus, which is looking at the months and ranking them for certain areas and topics as well. So it should be quite interesting. So let's kick off with the key themes. The first theme is identity, and actually, funny enough, Aries and Taurus also have this because of a lot of energy going into their first house of self. Of course, Gemini, you've had Uranus in Gemini in your first house of self, and so you'll have this big change up with your identity. But at the start of the year, Uranus has retrograded back into Taurus, which is in your 12th house. So that's going to affect your mental health. So when Uranus is in 12th house, it's very unstable. It can cause volatility in the way that your mood is, reacting to other things. You feel very easily triggered. It can be quite good when there are nice aspects to it, when there are nice trines, but I always say with Uranus, it's always better to err on the side of probably going to be more negative. Uranus, it doesn't discriminate. So it's not particularly a planet that is either good or bad. I mean, most planets aren't either good or bad, but for example, we always see Venus as being very good, for example. So Uranus is a little bit in the middle, doesn't really discriminate. It always depends on what sign it's in and the particular aspects it's making. Of course, Uranus in Taurus is debilitated. So this is not very good, because Uranus, which is far too unstable and shocking and we're all going to throw everything at the wall, it's too unstable to be in something fixed like Taurus, because Taurus is the most fixed of all fixed signs. So it does much better in Gemini, which is Uranus, a upper octave of Mercury, which rules Gemini. Therefore, it's a lot easier. So Uranus in Gemini, despite being in your first house of self and causing, shock and volatility and, change-ups in appearances, it is a little bit better than when it's in Taurus, especially in a house, a mental health house, a house that's very karmic, that can really have a lot of things going here, there, and everywhere. And so with your mood, you might feel like, oh, I'm having some really good days, but then I'm also having some really bad days. So it feels like when you're high, but when you're low, you are low. So identity is going to be a real fixture for you. Last year we had Jupiter in Gemini for the first half, so that was very exciting. Some people might have found this to be difficult. Jupiter in the first house simply makes it easier for you to go after the opportunities that you want by bringing luck to the first point of the wheel, right? But Jupiter also expands what is there. So if you have difficult placements in the first house, like Saturn, for example, Jupiter will expand that. And also the first house is really the outward projection of our identity to the world. And because of that, when Jupiter's expanding it, we can become very self-conscious, very insecure. Our appearance can really be a big sort of, sticking point for us. And we can also find that our, motivation for going after our goals and our achievements can be much more pressurized. So although Jupiter will bring abundance and luck to the first house of self, people see you as magnetic and attractive. They want to be around you. There is more opportunity for you to go after amazing things. Jupiter will also expand those aspects, which is why I think astrologers, I'll also include myself in this, but I wasn't really doing astrology until sort of October last year, actually. I've been doing astrology for a while, but I wasn't doing it on social media, so I wasn't here to be like, here's evidence of me saying this. I think that astrologers do need to really point out that Jupiter is not always the benefic that we think that it is. It can also be malefic, and having Jupiter in your first house for the first half of last year, you would have known this. Jupiter went into Cancer, which is the second house of income and finances. Again, really good for luck with money and growth, especially with self-worth and self-esteem. But again, if you have placements there in the second house that are expanding it and blowing up and it's difficult, you might find that to be more pressurizing with money. So again, watch this with your birth chart. It's really important to note that. So for the first half of the year, we still will have Jupiter in Cancer. So that will bring luck with money, you know, with self-worth and self-esteem in your material assets. But Jupiter will be moving into Leo in June the 30th. And so that will bring luck with growth, with starting projects, feeling more productive, expanding your social media presence if that's something you're interested in, renovating your home, maybe even getting new neighbors, also taking short vacations and doing things that are a little bit more for you. You might also find that you're finding life to be very quick and very speedy. Mutable signs tend to experience things very quickly, whereas fixed signs tend to experience things much slower, more on a delay. So this is just like life might be going really fast for you, things come quickly. And again, with Uranus in that first house of self as well, when it moves out of Taurus in the springtime, we'll be like, okay, everything is go, go, go. Then you'll be aligning with your spiritual purpose, traveling, focusing on letting go of communication issues, maybe some sibling or family drama too, because the North Node will be moving into Aquarius in your 9th house and the South Node into Leo in your 3rd house. So with that, you might be finding that you're letting go of some kind of codependency with communication with siblings, or having to be attached to somebody, or having to always be around or have someone there for you, finding that you actually have to be much more focused on being independent. And then with the North Node in Aquarius, aligning with the spiritual purpose of traveling, seeing the world, being more expansive, taking that Jupiter focus, but also finding that you are focusing on the bigger picture and less so on the details, which is what Gemini does as a Mercury ruled sign. If it's not always already quite clear, I do gear these horoscopes towards Gemini rising, but you can watch for Gemini sun for your ambitions and your goals, and for moon for your feelings and your mood for the year. But when I talk about the particular houses, I'm gearing it towards a rising sign, so from a whole sign approach, so just be mindful of that. And then you'll be aligning your career with your home and family life, because we're bringing some recurring themes from 2025 from the eclipses. We will still have Pisces and Virgo eclipses this year, so we're not quite done, but we will also have Aquarius, Leo eclipses as well. So with the Pisces and Virgo eclipses, you'll be aligning your career with the home and family life. And you also find that, again, this is something that's repeated, but it's the final kind of cycle for that energy as well. So the most important 2026 transits for you, Gemini, of course, as I mentioned, eclipses in both Aquarius and Leo, and Virgo and Pisces. You'll have Uranus in Taurus and Gemini. So as I mentioned, Uranus being in your first house of self, which actually took place last summer. It will be continuing, but it will go back into Taurus, in and out, in and out. So it will affect the 12th house of mental health and the first house of self. So just be mindful of that, as I mentioned. The North Node in Aquarius in the 9th house, and the South Node in Leo in the 3rd house, with Jupiter also in Leo in the 3rd house as well. So interesting as well, because of course Gemini rules the 3rd house. So that point of communication, the Mercury ruled house here, you're going to find that you might be a little bit more in your element with Jupiter in the 3rd house, because it's expanding a house that you know very well. But the South Node in Leo there is also going to get you to try to, I would say slow down a little bit, be a bit more independent, not be so physically attached to having to have somebody there. You might find that if you've got somebody that you talk to about anything in the world, I could talk to them about anything, that you actually find that you're being a little bit too dependent on them, and you need to focus more on yourself. This is really good energy for solo travel, just like short city breaks. Doesn't have to be massive, but small breaks as well. So a quick reflection on 2025. So we had the North Node in Pisces in your 10th house of career and expression, validation, public life. South Node in Virgo in the 4th house of family, home, hidden trauma. And you had eclipses in both of these houses too. Then the 30th of March, Neptune entered Aries in your 11th house. So that will have brought a little bit of delusion, should we say, to your friendships. Maybe you feel a little bit utopian about ideals in the world. Neptune doesn't really like to be in Aries, so this can be a real fog in the mirror. Saturn also entered Aries as well in that 11th house, 30th of May. So that can cause some constriction to friendships. You might find that you feel very lonely or isolated during this time. Again, maybe there's some delusion about friendships, or you feel like you're the only one that really gets it sometimes when I go to the supermarket, I get this feeling, I'm like, am I the only person that actually has peripheral vision and understands what I'm actually here for? You know, sometimes I get really frustrated. I'm like, is everyone else just like dead inside and I'm just the only person that has conscious awareness? Not saying that from an egoic point of view, but I'm just like, really? So Saturn in Aries can sometimes bring a bit of anger to that, where you think like, why is nobody like me, you know? Then we had Jupiter in Gemini for the first half of the year, but it entered Cancer June the 9th, 2025 in the second house of income and finance. So again, expanding and bringing abundance. Jupiter being in the second house is really lovely. The first, second, normally seventh house is really good for Jupiter to be in. And then we had Uranus move into Gemini July the 7th from Taurus. So again, from your 12th house of mental health into your first house of self, bringing a lot of innovation to your personality, maybe making you feel like I really need freedom with myself. I need to travel. Hence why I mentioned the solo traveling. And again, we're going to have this in and out as well. So there was a focus on friendships and your feelings around society. There's also a focus on money and abundance, but also your self-worth and self-esteem. And then from a difficult, traumatic point of having Uranus being Taurus, you also had Uranus move into Gemini as well. Chiron will move from Aries in your 11th house to Taurus. So because of that, your 12th house will be hit again. Chiron in the 12th house is very difficult, so just be mindful of that. Because when Uranus is going to be in Taurus and then Chiron in Taurus as well, whew, yeah, so there might be some trauma or some feelings that you are dealing with, but I've said this to quite a few zodiac signs, that this is going to be like once and for all. Like, I'm just going to deal with this, and it's going to be so much easier every time I do it. So Chiron, which is this wounded healer, this asteroid of trauma, is getting us to understand what we really want from our lives. And in the 12th house, it's really digging down on a karmic, traumatic point of view, basically everything we've hidden, especially related to parents, specifically the mother. But also, with Taurus, which is a Venus ruled sign, it brings harmony after we've really healed that. So it brings a lot of healing, a lot of energy. Chiron specifically in Taurus is about not feeling good enough or feeling like you're trying to achieve something that maybe is unachievable. So there's quite a few mixed feelings in there for you as well. So as we start the year, Uranus will be retrograding in Taurus, but actually it will station direct in Taurus February the 4th in your 12th house. So just be mindful of that as well. April is quite important for you as well, Gemini, because Venus will be entering Gemini April the 24th in your first house of self. But then Uranus will station in Gemini as well, April 6th in your first house. So you have Venus and Uranus in the first house of self. So that together is really quite nice because it brings a unexpected surprise or a feeling of, oh, like, didn't know this was going to happen. Kind of like when you bump into somebody, it's like, oh my God, it was love at first sight, It's just generally a really nice unexpected surprise. So April could be quite interesting for you, especially because we have a new moon in Aries as well in the 11th house through April the 17th. So that's also very good for unexpected surprises and new starts with friendships as well. Before I begin talking about the eclipses, I'm just going to mention the moons that are going to be the most notable for you this year. The first one being the lunar eclipse full moon in Virgo, in your 4th house of home and family, March the 3rd, specifically if you have anything very notable from 10 to 20 degrees of Virgo. We also have a new moon in Pisces, March 19th in the 10th house. And if you have anything from 20 to 29 degrees of Pisces, then that's also very notable for you too. May the 31st, we have a full moon in Sagittarius in your 7th house of committed relationships. Anything from 0 to 9 degrees of Sagittarius is really going to affect you here. But in the 7th house of committed relationships is probably the most important moon of that whole season. June the 15th, we have a new moon in Gemini in the first house of self at 24 degrees. So this is quite impactful for you in that first house of self. It's a nice sort of new moon as well. In August, we also have a lunar eclipse forming in Pisces, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, taking place August 28th in your 10th house at 4 degrees. In September, Uranus will be retrograding in Gemini, September 10th, actually, at 5 degrees in the first house of self. So just be mindful of that. When Uranus retrogrades, it tends to bring even more volatility and more shock as well. And then Chiron will be retrograding in Taurus in your 12th house. So that can be where you start to lament a little bit more on things. So you might find that it's a bit more of a very mental, stimulated, neurotic, overthinking kind of month, September. Although there are some really nice things as well, so don't be too worried about it. It's just more, it feels very mental, very focused. We also have a new moon in Virgo that will affect you as well, September 11th in the 4th house. So anything from 10 to 20 degrees of Virgo will be impactful for you. Then in November, we have a full moon in Gemini, November 24th actually, at 2 degrees in your 1st house of self. So a nice release of things as well, just before Mars enters Virgo, a fellow mutable sign, on the 25th in the 4th house of home and family. So just feel like a nice release in November for you. And then in December, Mercury enters Sagittarius in your 7th house of committed relationships, December 6th. And then a few days after, on December the 9th, we have a new moon in Sagittarius in your 7th house, which is a really nice new moon before we start 2027 for your relationships. And just beforehand, that Saturn and Neptune go direct in Aries as well. So it feels like things start to pick up a little bit more in December too. So I keep saying I'm going to do things before I talk about the eclipses, but I'm actually going to do a few more things before I talk about the eclipses because I want to end the video on those. So I'm going to actually rank the months based on the topics. So for January, it's the best month for career and opportunities and sort of giving yourself some hope. February, it's the best month to explore new opportunities with luck and just feeling very hopeful with your manifestations. March is the best month for a new start in career and pivoting in income. April is the best month for friends and self-development. May is the best month to work on mental health and self-care. June is the best month to launch a project and manifest increased income. July is the best month to manifest money. August is the best month to pivot direction in career and environment. September is the best month to support family and help the community, contribute to teams and whatnot. October is the best month to just relax and slow down and have a little bit of me time. November is the best month to put yourself and physical health first. And then December is the best month for new love, friends, and just basically a new start, which is fantastic for 2027. Okay, let's look at the impact of the change of nodes for you. So North Node in Aquarius in your 9th house and South Node in Leo in your 3rd house, taking place July 27th, 2026, all the way till March 26th, 2028. So we will have this for 2 years. North Node in 9th house is rags to riches. South Node in the 3rd house is the memories of a king. So if you're having, for example, a nodal return where you have this in your birth chart, then just be mindful of this. When the North Node is in Aquarius, we're much more geared towards social activity, that utopian ideal. But with the South Node in Leo, this is normally someone who had a past life as a king or a queen. And so when they come into this life with the North Node in Aquarius, it's a real shock to them that they're not, for example, a king now, or they're like, oh, why am I not being treated like royalty? It's like rags to, like literally I've lost all the money. Daddy's credit card isn't here anymore. Like it just feels very strange. For the whole world, this is more about billionaires and millionaires getting stripped of their wealth and, the distribution of wealth being put into the spotlight even more so than it is now. But for you personally, with the 9th house is all about spirituality and philosophy. And with Aquarius, which is all about that utopian ideal of morals and values, this is quite literally I'm a monk on the mountain, but it's taking a walk up the hill and understanding what life's really about. So the spiritual purpose, like I said, aligning with it becomes really important for you. And the South Node, again, trying to release some of that need to be always, close to somebody. You might find, the less I say, the better, right? Kind of try to let go of feelings there. It can also be the opposite way depending on who you are, because again, it also interacts with your placements in your birth chart. It could be that you grew up very quiet, and actually now you need to learn to speak your truth a little bit more. Again, it depends who you are, but these nodes are going to be incredibly impactful. We talk about the North Node in Pisces being spiritual, but the North Node in Aquarius, you ain't seen nothing yet. So it's going to be really quite interesting. Okay, so let's go on to the eclipses, because I kept saying I want to talk about this before the eclipses, so I'm actually going to talk about the eclipses. So I am going to start with the solar eclipse in Aquarius taking place February the 17th in your 9th house. So this is taking place at 28 degrees, which puts it in the 3rd decan of Aquarius. So this particular decan is associated with the 7 of Swords in Tarot, which is a very deceptive card. It deals with betrayal, but it's also very competitive. This particular decan of Aquarius generally is quite judgmental. It is kind of like fisticuffs, I've got to fight a little bit because one person has to be more innovative than the other. So with this, which is a new moon, but again, solar eclipses are a little bit more like supercharged new moons, this is about being really resourceful. So let's think about the 9th house, which is also about studying, having knowledge, literally higher education, so being more academic, being more quote unquote intelligent, and being more spiritual and philosophical than the other. So in this case, you might need to take on some wisdom that other people don't have in your life. This is the understanding, this is the, it all just clicks in your life, thinking on your feet, trying to outsmart other people. You might also find that because of that, you feel like you're isolated, or you're the only person that really gets it. So this is a new moon where you have to kind of outsmart other people in a psychological way. This is a sneaky kind of energy as well, and of course with the eclipses, they're like maverick moons as well, so they bring a lot of like testy energy that can be quite difficult. You do have Jupiter in Cancer in the 2nd house trining the North Node in Pisces in the 10th house as well, which is a nice trine aspect. But again, it's this blend between finances and career. So it might be that you're trying to, for example, get a promotion in your career, or you're trying to gain more money, or trying to gain some kind of status, but you're finding it to be very competitive. And so this new start for you, this new moon, is giving you motivation to really say, okay, maybe I don't have this, but I certainly got the wisdom and philosophy that you don't, and maybe I even have the education that you don't. And I see the bigger picture. Again, I'm talking about Gemini being very detail orientated because of Mercury, but it's more about seeing the bigger picture for you this year. So Jupiter in Cancer, whereas exalted, will bring an expansive quality to the 2nd house of income and finance, but also your self-worth and feeling confident. And so this energy will support feelings of, power. 2nd house is very powerful. And also with North Node in Pisces, which is very intuitive in the 10th house, you will sort of just know and be receptive to people trying to pull a fast one on you, because it's so open and obvious with the 10th house. It's going to be so open that you see it way before it's coming at you. So you just know. So you might find that there's a little bit of a competitive streak to this new moon for you as well. The Sun and Moon in Aquarius in the 9th house, in which there's a real spiritual purpose, and then squaring Uranus and Taurus in the 12th, where there's strong manifestation energy. This is exploring unconventional ideas to be able to get ahead, or be prepared for sudden events and opportunities, again, where things in your life, personal circumstances may shift as well. And again, you have to remember that Uranus and Taurus will somewhat spread money around as well because of the 2nd house of income. So this could be like, you might feel very competitive, or maybe even like attached to an idea of money, especially if there's an opportunity where you might be able to get money, but someone's standing in your way. Oh, but I'm sure you're going to be like this, aren't you? So just be mindful of that. Then March the 3rd, we have a lunar eclipse full moon in Virgo taking place at 12 degrees. And that is in your 4th house of home and family. 2nd decan of Virgo, Stalker Central is what I call it, ruled by Venus and Saturn. So not Mercury this time. This decan is associated with the 9 of Pentacles, which is quite successful actually. It's very positive. It's very open, right? When I see 9 of Pentacles, I think of open heart surgery for some reason. This is not what's happening, but it's always like an open heart, being open and receptive to success. It's very positive when it comes to karma as well. It's brilliant for wealth, but in the 4th house, that's really good for example, letting go and releasing something that you've hard earned when it comes to buying a home, for example, or some kind of particular emotional breakthrough with a family member, because like I said, there is some elements of trauma that you're dealing with this year. So this feels like I have earned this, and I feel like I've put the work in, the shadow work or the actual graft to get the house, whatever, take what resonates here. And I actually feel like I've done it without little help as well. So it feels even more successful. You have probably had to sacrifice quite a lot of things, your time, your mental health, whatnot, money. But in a way, you have more freedom now. And there's an element of you being more spontaneous, which is very helpful when we have like the North Node in the 9th house, for example. So this is a decan where you might feel like, oh, I've finally done it. What did I do to deserve this? Like, maybe it's not enough. But actually, it's purely because A, it's Virgo, and because Chiron in the 12th house is going to make you feel like, hey, maybe it's not enough, right? So just remember to celebrate your successes and your wins with this full moon and this eclipse, because the eclipses can make us feel like, I finally did it. maybe what I want is not really what I want. And then it's like, oh, for God's sake, please just enjoy life for a little bit here, you know. We also have the Sun and Mercury and Pisces in the 10th house, trining Jupiter and Cancer in the 2nd house. So this will enhance intuition and creativity again, but it's particularly related to, as I mentioned with the previous eclipse, you know, the Aquarius eclipse, career and money focus. Putting a lot of work into these two things, or the need for validation, self-worth, again, whatever resonates here. There's that strong focus on your career and the way you're trying to show up and be actually good at something, and then also getting money from that, but also feeling like maybe the journey is the most important thing. When I get to the destination, it doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. Jupiter and Cancer in the 2nd house, sextiling the Moon and Virgo in the 4th house, in which there is an emphasis on home and emotional security, and the Moon is focusing on self-improvement with your family and your home life. The sextile itself is trying to build a solid foundation between finances and the home as well, so you feel good. You don't feel like, I'm in a place where I don't feel very stable, and it's actually a really good time to improve your home environment as well, and to strengthen any of your family bonds particularly as well. Then August 12th, we have a total solar eclipse new moon in Leo in the 3rd house for you at 20 degrees. So this is the 3rd decan of Leo, associated with rivalry and competition. So the competition kind of comes back a little bit. This is actually the 7 of Wands. So this is kind of like when you are like this, oh, I think something's coming at me. Oh, okay. It's actually very disciplined, where you're really maintaining power and control. Again, this is solar eclipse, so supercharged new moon in Leo, which is a fighter. Leo is, you know, the lion. It roars. It actually rules the heart as well, so it's very passionate. This is trying to really get a resolution. It's perhaps defensive and aggressive, but it's also feeling like you're under attack, you're fighting, you're trying to maintain a piece of territory in the 3rd house. Interestingly, this could be some kind of project that you're trying to take control of, and you don't want someone else to take that project from you, because then that would mean that you're not as successful as this. It could also be that you are trying to win a conversation or an argument. You know, eclipses always bring very, you know, random arguments out the blue, or random kind of thing. I've had a eclipse in my 3rd house last year. Oh yeah, talk about an argument. So this definitely can cause arguments as well. You can even have a bit of a quarrel or some kind of like passive aggressive thing with a neighbor as well. Karmically, this is when you really need to stand up for yourself and say, no, I will not let you take advantage of me. I also won't let you bully me with your words. I'm going to speak my truth, and I'm going to be confident, because if I don't, you're just going to see me as a doormat, able to say whatever you want to me. No, I spot it. I know it. It's not happening, right? So this is when your personality is very strong and you have a lot more confidence here, but there definitely could be some difficulty with this solar eclipse in particular as well. And like I said, in Leo, in which it rules the heart, everything's going to be taken more personally. So you really want to be careful with your words on this particular eclipse as well. You can also see that we have a double kite formation as well. We have a trine. We have a grand trine, a grand air trine between Venus in Libra, Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus in Gemini. So as you can see, we have one sort of on its side and then another there, but we do have a grand trine between Pluto, Venus and Uranus as well. Don't know what that was, but between these two. So when we have kite formation, generally it's very transformative in astrology, but to have two is really, really very special. So this is very, very powerful eclipse. And like I said, everything is going to be taken much more personally. And you do have some energy there. I mean, even Mercury in Leo. Mercury in Leo itself, when words are taken more personally, will always cause arguments. Jupiter being in Leo as well, it's going to expand that energy. Jupiter's right next to Mercury, so it's expanding it. I wouldn't say it's in a close enough orb to the moon, but it certainly is with Mercury. And these two are opposite Pluto in Aquarius in the 9th house. So spiritually, you're like, who do you think you're talking to? It's not working out, right? Uranus in your 1st house of self, trining Pluto as well. So kind of feels like you feel like you've got the moral high ground, but there is an argument here, and the Leo energy is going to cause some issues as well. Mars in Cancer. Hate Mars in Cancer, because that's when you literally scream and then cry right afterwards. Or you're like, I need to talk to... I need to cry. Yeah. So it's very emotional kind of eclipse. So just be mindful of arguments, specifically in the 3rd house, which is literally a fight of, it's less fisticuffs, it's more like a fight with words. So just be mindful of that. And then we have a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Pisces. kind of even worse because full moon in Pisces is so emotional. I know I have a Pisces moon taking place August 28th. You can see that the kite formation is no longer there, like the top half of it is, because Pluto is going to be trining Uranus for quite some time this year. But there is some other aspects going on. Saturn opposite Venus, which can cause some real constriction there as well. Saturn in Aries in the 11th house, and then Venus in Libra. So it does feel like there is still some worry or some kind of negative energy here. Again, it's a full moon, so it is a release. It's not a total lunar eclipse, it's a partial lunar eclipse, but it is still a full moon in Pisces, which is very sensitive. Is in your 10th house as well. So that is a release. It could be a feeling of release with a job, validation, have some kind of release with a father figure, maybe even an uncle in your life. It's at 4 degrees, this decan is pretty artistic. You know, this is like, I'm gonna smoke a long cigarette, and feels very fairy tale. Pisces generally is very Neptunian, right? So this is actually associated with the 8 of Cups, which is walking away from something you thought you were going to have success with. So you could, for example, be passed up for a job. You might have applied for a job that you really loved, have an interview and you don't get it. Could also find that you don't get some kind of success. It feels really with the big eclipses this year for you, Gemini, that you're kind of on a fight consistently. You seem to be warring, you seem to be trying to win. There's a competition. Maybe you're trying to beat out other people, but it certainly feels like, I don't want to do this. It's a lot of inner and outer work, especially with Chiron being in that 12th house as well, in which you actually need to take yourself away from the rat race of the 10th house of career and focus on what is true to you. If you're retired watching this and you're like, I don't have a job, right? This also is focusing on validation and what people are trying to push onto you, ideal-wise. Again, issues with parents, issues even with being a parent to children that you might have, even being a aunt or an uncle to niece and nephews. But also, again, it's that feeling of inner success and people putting their judgment on you, you know, especially in a very uber capitalist society, right? You have to remember what rules the 10th house, Capricorn, right? But the 8 of Cups generally is, it's not very superficial or shallow, which is good for you because the North Node being in the 9th house would suggest you don't want to do that. And Pisces is not a superficial sign either. It is very spiritual, it is very layered. So you might particularly find here that you are really releasing something to do with the 10th house and finding yourself being like, oh, thought this was going to work out. And again, with Saturn being opposite Venus as well, it might feel like, why me? Because Saturn's the harsh lesson, the constrictor, right? So it's like, why me? Why am I having to go through this? This is not fair. So you might definitely feel like, right, okay, great, this is not what I want. So just be mindful of that as well. And I think that is the last eclipse of the year. Let me just double check. I believe it is. It is. So that's the last eclipse of the year. Those are going to be the most notable things for you happening. And as I mentioned, the key, most pivotal things for you is Uranus in Gemini, Jupiter in Leo in the 3rd house, and the North Node in Aquarius in the 9th house, South Node in the 3rd as well. So Gemini, overall, because I don't really say that years are going to be good or bad because it depends what kind of person you are. Some people absolutely love chaos, some people hate it. It really just depends. Generally, I think this is, yeah, it's fine. I don't see anything bad here, really. I think actually having Jupiter in Leo in the 3rd house is pretty good. It's not like one of the most exciting houses that people are like, yeah, it's about love and whatnot, but I think it is also quite interesting. I also think the North Node in Aquarius for your spiritual purpose will really help and make you feel like you're doing much, you're doing more things in life that feel meaningful, and you might also be even more geared towards traveling during this time as well. So I think identity changes, feeling very excited and focused on that will be really important. So Gemini, I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I also hope you have a fantastic 2026. Again, if you're interested in having the most strategic aspects for the whole year to help you have the advantage, then I do have them on my website alongside personal readings and all sorts of other little exciting things as well. So if you're interested, then you can click on that. I try to keep them as cheap as possible, so they're accessible to everybody. But I do have a full-time job, so I have to do these in my spare time. So I do have to charge them, unfortunately, otherwise I would have no time to myself. But hopefully that's understandable. And yeah, hope you have a fantastic 2026, and I'll see you soon.